Hello and welcome to Unapologetics, the podcast where we read a Christian article and we explain why it's dumb. I am Brently, and here with me we've got Matt. How we doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing awesome today, Brent. Thanks for having me back for the second week.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! And we got a doozy this week of an article here. First of all, prophecynewswatch.com. Holy shit. I didn't even realize that there was this made me so happy when I found it because I was like, dude, this used to be like my whole life. Like I used to just be all over the internet looking at everything I could find to basically tell me I'm right about my ideas about prophecy, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that, Brent. I think a lot of people did that.
Yeah, and I used to be into Alex Jones. I was into Alex Jones before he became like super. Like it used to be more of a nonpartisan type thing. Like he just sort of went after all politicians. It wasn't like just on the left or anything like that. You know, it was a bit more uh on both sides. You know, and so. But over time, you know, he's become more and more right wing. You know.
Yeah, and he's not alone. Like I grew up in a conservative household too. Doesn't sound like it's like as focused and crazy as yours was, but you,
Yeah.
you start. I remember like coming of age and listening to right wing radio with my dad in the car back in the day, and like it was crazy, but it wasn't like crazy by today's standards. Like
Right.
every
Yeah.
single one of them went down the rabbit hole into craziness, and it continues to escalate.
Yeah, it's amazing, like what used to be extreme as far as the right wing goes, and now we're looking back and like, that's child's play, man. You know, because now we're just in a place where nothing is true. There is no objective truth. Like they took that objective truth line by that philosopher and just like made it a fucking reality. You
Yeah,
know, It's
but at the
like-
same time, like the beginning of this rabbit hole journey has like a definite beginning that you can trace back to. I think it was 1988 when Reagan removed the fairness doctrine.
oh,
It's
that's right. Yeah,
from that point when it became legal for them to disseminate any news they wanted
yeah.
anytime without an opposing view. That's it. All starts from there.
Right, and that's such a an excellent point to bring up because, and this is why I always use other countries' news because they actually get sued. They get or not sued. They get fined if like somebody can prove that they misrepresented a fact. That's why you see like the BBC and stuff like that. They will retract things quite a bit. You
They
know,
do.
if they get something wrong. Yeah, yeah,
Libel laws are really, really soft there. So
yeah. Right. So yeah, you know, and so in Canada too, like Canadian news is another one that's good. Sometimes our bullshit like slips into their news,
oh
you know, and
yeah.
it's sort of an accident, like because they're just taking our source as if it's like, you know, and the Daily Wire or whatever will use itself as a fucking source, you know.
Yep.
It's like so, you know, that it's we're actually kind of fucking with the rest of the world's like news sources and stuff.
Yes, we
But
are.
so the article that we got today is awesome. Like I am so happy to have have found this fucking article. So the title of the article is "Did the Bible predict drone swarm technology?"
I think that answer is no, flat out. But it's an interesting read.
Yeah. I mean, I love, and you know, and again, I used to do this type of shit like all the time. I'd always be looking at like the news and like looking at things in the military and being like, and also be reading Revelation, right? And be like, oh, this could have been that, and that could have been this, and this is like, you know, oh, if you think about it from their perspective in the past, it could have looked like blah blah blah, you know, that whole line of reasoning, you know.
Yes. Yes, it's real easy to get trapped in that.
And it's just confirmation bias. Like that's all it is. You're just confirming what you'd already like to think is true through with new information, you know?
Yes. So the first thought I had when I saw this article, I read the first paragraph and then I thought, how does one find themselves reading an article like this. And I was thinking, I recently listened to a podcast while I was at work that was talking about the whole show is dedicated to how things in the background of our lives are designed and why. And they did an episode on algorithms, like search engine algorithms, and how they were originally designed to give you the most relevant things the things that were most relevant to the words that you typed into the search bar. But like Google specifically changed it to track what you usually view and give you things that are more specifically related to things that you usually view. So it like pigeonholes people into going down the rabbit hole on a regular basis. And I think that's how people end up here.
So for example, like let's say that you're like a Christian that's really into end times prophecy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're also into right-wing politics. This would perfectly direct you to conspiracy sites, right? Like you could end up being at the lizard, alien, flat earth, whatever, type of websites, right?
Yes, and your search engines are automatically now putting together the right-wing politics and your past searches for biblical prophecy and merging them together, because in the way that the algorithm works, it sees two interests coming together at a certain point on the internet and says, oh, well, you like both of those things. Let's just show you those things together all the time.
And I was going to say, because like, I swear to God, like the right has like, it's so hard to get people on the left, right? Like, because a lot of times it's like herding cats, right? Because it's just so many different groups you're appealing to. The right is appealing to one group, it seems, the white, straight, cisgendered, white, white male, whatever, right?
Yes.
That's like the main target audience that they have, and they're going after everything that scares that particular individual, right? And so we have to do all this critical thinking type of stuff. We're all about critical thinking, so they actually have to provide a lot of evidence, a lot of things like that. It's much more difficult to convince the left of something to be, that something is true. On the right, they can just basically take whatever. They're like, oh yeah, and the Jews are the bad guys here, and then we're like, oh wait, what? You just woke up all of the fucking racists and all of the all the Nazi guy type people, and they're like, oh okay, I'm listening. And so it's all they use is basically religion, conspiracy, and bigotry, and as long as they got those three things, they can basically control a large portion of the population.
Yeah. You also notice that they're starting the tenor of this article is not pro or against drone technology. Like the idea is that if it is a Bible prophecy, that might be a good thing, because end times is the goal, right? That's really what they want. But if we turn back the clock a little bit to like post 9/11 era, I remember like being a delivery driver in my early 20s and listening to right-wing radio, because that's the only thing that's on the radio is right-wing. Once you get tired of hearing the same 10 songs. And I remember specifically in the early 2000s, the right-wing talking shows railing against irresponsible science spending because the government was, in their words, giving grants to scientists to put shrimp on treadmill. Do you remember that argument?
No, I missed that. Wow, I missed that one.
Internet videos of shrimp that were like strapped down to a treadmill underwater, and the scientists were just watching the shrimp walk, right? Now, this is a real thing.
It's like for exercise. They're like, okay, now let's see.
This is a real thing that happened.
How many calories did that shrimp burn there? Let's figure this out.
Well, what they were doing is, so they were trying to come up with drone technology, but at the beginning they're like, how do we want this drone to move? Let's look at different creatures, how they move, what's the most efficient, what's going to be the easiest to program. So yeah, they were watching how everything moved.
Oh,
They were
okay,
also
okay.
taking flies and hooking wires into their brains and like tying them down in front of a screen and showing stimuli to see how the fly's brain reacted and like which way it wanted to move, to figure out if like an insect type eye would be more beneficial to robots and them figuring out where to go automatically, or the unmanned technology,
Yeah.
but also just to
Wow.
figure out if like it's is it cheaper to build an eye that functions like a compound eye versus the human eye. Like,
Right.
can we devote less processing power to the visual if we do it in this style, kind of an idea.
Oh, wow.
So the right
That's
wing was dead set against this in its infancy because they couldn't see the philosophical ramifications of what this beginning level research was actually doing. But
I
now they're
mean,
fans. Now that it's going to kill everyone and cause the Armageddon, now they're all
now
on
they're
board.
cool with it. Huh? I mean, generally speaking, they're always against whatever is new. You know what I mean? Like it just seems to be a reoccurring trope that for the right that anything new they don't like. You know,
Yeah,
but
isn't that fun?
until like you said, until it verifies something they'd already like to believe, and then now they're all now they're all on board.
Yeah. Yep. So this article talks heavily about how the Chinese are investing in drone technology and how scary that is. And they reference a video in the article that's down at the bottom. If anybody wants to read this article, it's on prophecynewswatch.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the video down at the bottom is from a YouTube show that it is trying to play itself off as like the right wing daily show, and it is called China Uncensored.
So yeah, it's like Steven Crowder, but only about one thing, you know, about China.
Yes. And
So
when I
fucking weird.
yeah, and when I looked up this group, hold on, I have so many tabs open from looking up all the articles. Okay,
Right.
so China Uncensored is like loosely affiliated with a news agency called the Epoch Times, which
Oh, okay, I've heard of that. Yeah.
yeah, they are the second largest maker of pro-Trump advertisements on Facebook.
Wow. That's
Y-
well, I mean that makes sense given what their articles usually sound like. Yeah.
Yes, they promote QAnon. They promote anti-vaccine, anti-science stuff.
Like
Uh,
I'm almost I'm almost concerned, you know, that they're like why their entire articles aren't in all caps. You know what I mean? Like I was expecting that out of these people.
yeah,
You know?
but so if you look in just, you can't really look deep into the Epoch Times because they are owned and operated by a religious group from China called
From
the
China.
called the Falun Gong New Religious Movement, and they were thrown out of China starting in the 90s, and they moved their headquarters to New York State. And because they're a religious organization, you can't dig into their finances. So they
Damn.
have
Okay.
this news agency that is quasi covered by 501c3 religious protections, and they basically do whatever they want, and we can't see what's inside of them.
It's too bad it wasn't the phallic gong, and it's just a giant metal penis that you know you're just picturing getting banged on by a, you know,
Yeah, every story is better with penises. I wish that
right?
was
Oh,
there. They're
yeah,
hilarious.
right. That would have been cooler. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't even know where to go with this. It spiders off into so many directions at this point. But let's
It
look
was
at the meat of what they're talking about. So
okay.
the video is talking about how China is like putting a bunch of quadcopters together and networking them so they can kind of fly like a a swarm of mosquitoes, but they can do it together all at the same time. And that's the same technology that a lot of industries are developing. The electric car companies, in particular, where the automated driving systems, they can only get so good when they're acting on their own. But the idea is that they're eventually going to network together. So making traffic jams a thing of the past, the cars will
Oh,
just organize themselves together. It's the same technology we're talking
oh,
about
that'd be
here. They're just
great.
using drones.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Because
Yeah,
you know it's all those dicks that are weaving in and out of everybody, trying to get ahead first, and they're the ones that cause the traffic jams. I will die on this hill.
yeah, the
They
people
aren't
that are
doing that.
slamming their brakes on because they ran up behind somebody on the freeway and then causing the person behind them to slam on their brakes over and over again in a domino effect. Yeah, it's totally.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Yep.
Okay.
So
So
this
it
technology gets rid of that. Got it. Okay.
yeah, but this technology has a ton of applications, right? It's not just military drones or locusts, as it would say in the article that the the Bible said that there would be locusts that would devour much of the earth, and that all of a sudden means flying military drones.
But I mean, they're not just, I mean, they call them locusts, but like the description doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't really add up as far as I'm concerned, as far as for like what locusts are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty big stretch. I mean, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch if instead of just saying locusts, Revelations would have said man-made swarms of man-made locusts. I mean, that would be
That would have
closer.
at
That'd be
least,
something to look at, but it
yeah.
did not.
No, of course not. It's just it's just a fucking like I don't know. It's nonsense, honestly. Once it gets down to like what they're supposedly look like, it's nonsense.
Yeah. So if we look at this article, right at the beginning, they start mentioning something called Switchblade military drones, which are super cool. Like I watched a video from their manufacturer, just like conceptually, they're super cool how they work. And the idea
Hmm.
behind their development was so you have ground forces. We learned this early in Iraq. You have ground forces moving on the ground, and they come after fire from like a fortified position, and they get
Okay.
pinned down. What do those soldiers do in that situation? They call in air support,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
either an air force base or a navy carrier sends a ship, and they blow up that point so that the soldiers can move on. But
Right.
those planes and those bombs and all the fuel and people that it takes to do that is super expensive. So how can we do this in an inexpensive way?
Yeah.
Well, this company called AeroVironment came up with the Switchblade drone system, and what it does is, if you've ever seen like a little artillery tube, you drop what looks like a grenade with fins on the back down the tube, and it launches it out.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen
Yeah,
that in movies.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they give a little tube like that to a soldier who puts it on their backpack, but inside is not an artillery shell. It's a little drone that has its wings folded up, and that drone itself has a little bit of explosives in it. So the tube launches this drone out, and it'll fly out automatically and identify the target that is pinning them down, and then just run into it and explode.
Shit. It reminds me of have you ever played that game Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah. I played it. That was a long time ago, but I did
Yeah.
play it.
It's an old school game, but like there was I swear there was a part where you could like shoot a missile and then you became the missile and you could like fly it around to get where you wanted it to kill, you know.
Yeah.
That's basically the same concept here. Huh?
Yeah, it's a lot like it. So it's a cost saving measure where the troops can carry their own air support into battle basically, and they can do it for a few $1,000s versus a few $100,000 it would cost to launch a $2 billion fighter jet with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of ammunition and bombs on it.
That they're hoping will return. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's super efficient, right? They're trying to make their dollars stretch farther. And
Absolutely.
it's a cool
And
idea.
not kill the, like people, humans. Like,
Yeah,
we can, and I'm all on board for that, man. Like, if we can not kill soldiers, that'd be great. Let's just do more of that.
yeah.
If we could turn all war into just robots that were manning fighting each other, I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
There have been some pretty cool movies about that very thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Tons.
also, and because these things are super small and don't have a ton of explosives in them, like the collateral damage is really, really small. So it's part of what are smart weapons and why do we have them? Because when we went to large scale industrial war, we used to just have to just drop dummy bombs over huge areas and kill tons of people, soldiers or not. And it was
Yeah.
not, that's not morally acceptable.
No,
So
we blew up 2 islands of just fucking people, man. Fine for, just as a show of power.
yeah, because that's how it was done back then. But even
Yeah.
then, we knew that it was immoral and needed to do it better. So then we got step forward to like first Iraq War, and we have the first smart weapons being deployed, and the number of civilians went down, being killed went down dramatically, although mistakes were still made. So we are
Mhm.
continuing the military and the US government is continuing to step down so that we get even more precise. And this is just a tool for them to do that. It doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. It's just
What?
more moral philosophy meets technology meets the man's need for warfare.
And it sort of looks like it might be something sort of connected, kind of, if you really think about it, to something that might be in the Bible.
Yes. But we
Okay.
need to be. I think the moral of this story is not the technology that it's talking about, but it's the people that are talking about it. And it took me 5 minutes to figure out who, where the funding was coming for these articles, who was writing them, and those things are important.
Oh, yeah.
The Epoch Times and their loose quote unquote network of affiliates is not a reliable source of information. And
No, it's like Mike Lindell's fucking buddies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to take them seriously. Seriously,
yeah,
they have an agenda, and when they say agenda, I mean like made up nonsense that they're trying to prove is true. That's what I mean by agenda.
that's right. And if you anybody reading this article on this prophecy news site, they're the Christian target audience, but they don't know that this is coming from another religious group that has nothing to do with them, and they would be completely opposed to if they knew who they were. But
Oh,
they're just eating it up because the confirmation bias is more important than the reality of where all of this is coming from.
right, because here's the thing, like when I was a Bible believing Christian who was right wing and a conspiracy theorist and everything, like I would look things up and I would not pick the top article or whatever that came up when I searched the thing. I went down and down and down and down and continued down and went to page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 until I found the one that was like, oh, this sounds like it's telling me what I'd already like to believe. And let me click that. And that's the way a lot of these people, because they operate, because they don't even realize they need that destabilization of media in order for them to think what they'd like to think is true. So, really all the right-wing media has to do is go, media is all bullshit, and then they get to go, cool, I can now go and find whatever I'd like to find, and believe is true.
Yeah, but at least so back in that era, though, that was back when our search engines were still giving you the most actual relevant information on top. And
Yeah.
you had to choose to scroll past all of that. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that is at least some small part of your deconversion, where you had to acknowledge at some point that the information at the top was there too, and then you had to compare them once you looked into it. But with
Yeah.
the way the algorithms work now, it moves the shit at the bottom of the list to the top, so you never have to see anything but that information.
See, and this is why they are always saying, "Oh, keep watching CNN, bro. Keep watching it, okay? Yeah, keep watching, MSNBC, all right? And it's because that's what they're getting, and it's this projection, that they don't even
Yeah.
realize how fucking they're being brainwashed by this, and they're just assuming that the other side is being just as brainwashed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's terrifying. Honestly, it's fucking terrifying.
I don't know what made me think of this. You brought CNN, and my mind just wandered, and I was thinking about how CNN, yeah, has a lot of bad takes.
Oh God, yeah.
Their corporate backing
Hmm.
biases their coverage, but you can still use CNN for certain things, like the hurricane, whatever, has landed and it hit here. Their breaking news stuff is usually like pretty good, right? Like this
Yeah,
thing just happened. There's no analysis yet. It's just A happened and it happened here is
yeah,
decent, that you don't get with like a Fox News, because the spin comes immediately with the other sources.
yeah.
It's CNN's analysis where it breaks down.
Right. It almost makes me. It's funny. It's like that, and I can't remember. If it's like a meme or whatever, or a quote or something, where they said that it used to be that you would get the news and then you would decide what your opinion was about it. Now you get an opinion about the news and then decide whether or not it's actually news.
Yes.
And I think that's very poignant, about these sort of things.
Yeah. Uh, it's it becomes so tangled and hard to decipher. Like at some point, you have to just acknowledge that your news is biased, and you just actively try to clean that bias out as much as you can. I do that constantly.
Oh yeah. I have to recognize that I have a bias, and I notice like myself that I will do things, that like I'll be like, okay, I have to check if I'm just being biased or not, because like, oh, was this a black person that did whatever, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm already like doubting it because I know how racist people are, but I have to like, you know what I mean? Like I have to like wait and check to make sure, like, okay, yeah, no, they actually did do a bad thing or whatever, but like I have that bias myself, on the left, you know.
Yeah, no, it takes work, and it's difficult work to do. The important part is to make some sort of an effort to do it. Uh,
Yeah.
if you've never had a news source that you loved, and when you looked it up, found out that as of recently their rating for telling the truth has been brought down, and had to throw away a news source, then I would encourage you to do that. I recently, I think it was about 6 months ago, had to do that with the Guardian. The Guardian
Oh
has
yeah.
over 100 years of journalism excellence, and they had a bias, but their truth rating was really, really high, and
Yeah.
it last year it got downgraded because of some stories they didn't retract. And I will still read the Guardian, but I don't. But I have to. I always take it with a grain of salt now. Uh,
Right.
I think they're trying to do a better job, but I do not read opinion pieces or editorials. That's not. I want to read the
Well,
facts.
yeah. And that's the weird thing. It's like there's so many people, and I get that one the most. They're like, oh no, that's an opinion piece. I'm like, dude, we're talking about COVID, and it's opinion pieces say the word opinion at the top, man. Like that's how you know it's a fucking opinion piece.
Yeah, you'll get this. I've noticed when if you argue with somebody on the right, especially, that when you ask them for evidence and they provide it, oftentimes it is an opinion article, and it says the words opinion at the top of the
At the
article.
top. And so
And
they assume that the other side's doing the same thing.
yeah, because it's coming, well, they assume that it's true because it's coming from a news source, and they're trying to pull the confirmation bias angle. But I will not interact with an opinion piece. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'll listen to it just to see what the opinion is, but at the end of the day, if they're not like what if the sources that they're providing are like the Daily Mail and shit like that, like nah, I don't got time for this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, even really great journalistic sources like the New York Times has like a long-term excellence rating in their reporting,
Holy
but
shit, yeah.
their editorial and opinion section have been a mess for
Oh, it's
decades.
garbage. Yeah, it's absolute garbage. But that is probably one of the best as far as like actual reporting goes.
Yeah,
Uh,
you just erase the opinion side and just stick with the facts, and it's a great source. But that happens. That's not just the New York Times. That's every news agency now. People read the opinions and the editorials, and that's an important part of their business. And if you take that out of how you interact with the news, your life changes dramatically.
yes, I will agree. Yeah, because that was my whole bag, man. Like I was honestly in the, when I this is funny when I started watching, or started trying to pay attention to the news. The first thing I ever saw was Alex Jones, like across whatever river from the Bohemian Grove, thing, and I don't know if you're aware like of that
I
whole.
remember when he did that stunt, although I didn't engage with it, so I don't know what he quote unquote uncovered or what became of that story. But I remember him doing it.
Yeah, and that from then on, I was hardcore conspiracy theory. I was waiting for the end times, the prophecies. My dad like used to teach prophecy classes, and
Oh,
so yeah, like he was all about the prophecy, and he talked to me about it like nonstop. So it was very ingrained in me. It was like this is what to look for. This is what's it, and it was weird because like part of what got me to not to kind of reject it all was Trump, because I'm like, dude, this dude is everything you've been telling me to look out for, and now you are supporting him, and you're doing it mindlessly, like almost like where you're just supporting this guy, and I was like, if the Bible is true, right? If any of this, like, like the Antichrist would be exactly like Trump.
yeah, he's exactly what the Left Behind movie, the Antichrist in the Left Behind movie was. Just it's it's uncanny how close he is to the Christians' depiction of what the Antichrist would be in the end times.
Yeah, it says he's a lover of himself. He'll never admit when he's wrong. Like all these just things, like just these little things in there that, like, and they're of course, like looking at old kings that were tyrants and stuff, right? That were bad, and they're like, let's just take the characteristics of these old tyrant kings, and let's put them into what the future world king is going to be like. That is Satan incarnate, right?
Yes.
And but like Trump hits all the fucking checks, the boxes. Like you're checking all the boxes there. It's it's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely got me thinking. And then of course all of the conspiracy stuff like switched to being like, oh no, Trump's the good guy in all of this, and all the Jewish rich people, they're the bad guys.
Yep.
Because I can't not do that, of course, right? So yeah, so let's take a look at this article here. Did the Bible predict drone swarm technology? While
Oh,
oh,
where do you want to begin, Brent? Like,
I
is
was
there's so much to tackle here. It is fantastic. There,
yeah.
here is an angle from deeper in. Like, I got so sucked down the rabbit hole of who was coming up with this information, I almost forgot about this part. So the whole idea of the article is that it's super scary that China specifically is developing this drone technology, right? And what could they
Oh,
do with it? Could they attack an aircraft carrier with drones?
hmm.
And it claims that
Yeah.
I'm going to quote the article here. China is one of the leading nation, or one of the nations leading the charge on the development of drone swarm technology. Some reports indicate that China has successfully tested a swarm of 1,000 drones, and China appears to be interested in swarm capability as a method of attacking U.S. aircraft carriers. So, yeah, duh. They
Yeah.
everyone who has enough money to spend on this technology is looking at the most bang for the buck, right? An aircraft
Yeah.
carrier is billions and billions of dollars, and a swarm of quadcopters with little bombs attached to them is measured in thousands of dollars, right?
Right.
But China having these is not that terrifying considering we are still the leader in drone technology. We started that stuff first. We're the ones that are bringing it in large scale on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And of course, China's going to try to use it to fight back. That's the nature of warfare. The both sides are in an arms race. It's the story of human history.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that because of course, and they're going to use China to scare everybody because they're the scary bad guys, you know.
Yeah.
But
But even in the article, they admit that China's military spending is 1/4 of what our spending is.
wow, they even put that in the art. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's
And the reason they're looking at the drones is because we have like 22 aircraft carriers. We have more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world's navies combined. And even using that number, like you talk about the when people used to say they were afraid of what North Korea could do. So you're looking at numbers on papers, right? Who aircraft carrier numbers, rest of the world versus the US. But if you dive just a little bit below that surface, even, we are only counting America's super carriers. No other country on earth has a super carrier. We are counting, in the number for the rest of the world, we are counting tiny little mission specific aircraft carriers that just have a few planes and some helicopters on them.
hmm.
And we're giving those credit as carriers versus our super carriers, and it's not even close.
Oh,
China has one aircraft carrier. Uh, they're about, I think the second one, they have a second one. I think it's built and it's undergoing trials at the moment. But their first aircraft carrier was an old, like 1980s Soviet carrier. And even at the time that the Soviets built it, it was not even compared to our carriers of the 70s and 80s. It was a smaller, mission specific type carrier that didn't work up against our carriers at all.
okay.
And China bought it and refurbed it and was using it as a training vessel to train their navy on how an aircraft carrier would work if they were to have a functioning one, but it was not a ship of war.
Oh man, that could have made a great orgy vessel. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a
Lots of space,
lot of space.
you know.
You could, and it had like a curved launching deck, like a skateboard ramp to launch the planes. You could use that, like one of those
Oh yeah.
wedge pillows. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, you could do a lot with that. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Now that's all I can think about. Thanks, Brent.
Yeah,
So
well, good.
Oh, so yeah, China is trying to. They have 1/4 of our military budget. Their navy pales in comparison to ours. If you look at how many boats they have, there's parity, but their boats suck and are small. Uh, and yeah, they're trying to come up with cheap ways that they cannot be totally eclipsed. We're at the point where we're
By the
like
heart.
the British Navy was before World War II, where the British Navy just controlled the seas for the most part, and nobody could stand up to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at right now.
Huh. And that's us.
Yeah,
America. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Our Navy encircles the globe, and nobody can do shit about it.
Wow. So let me get this straight. So these Bible prophecy nerds I mean, let's just call them like what they are. They're Bible prophecy nerds. This is fucking Lord of the Rings, but like in the Bible. And they're trying to relate what they're reading to what is happening in reality. Right.
Yes.
And they're trying to find any kind of like teeny tiny similarity to be like, see, this is like what's really happening here.
Yeah, but they leave out all the context because all of their news comes from crazy people funded by fundamentalist religious organizations. And most of those, or some of those organizations aren't even really on their side, and they're just being manipulated by the algorithm and these religious fundamentalist groups, and none of them know it. They're all in the dark about it.
So what exactly what I mean, like what could possibly be similar about drone technology to anything that's in the Bible?
Apparently, the word swarm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's huh.
Yeah. If all of your thinking comes from one place, you will see words that are used in that place in other places and assume there's a connection. And if you're really, really afraid of penises and vaginas, it makes it even crazier.
Oh God, yeah, and they are. Last thing they want is a giant penis coming after them like a blue meanie in the Beatles movie or something. They don't want that.
No, sounds kind of hot though.
Right. And it's got to be a porno of that.
There has got to be a yellow submarine porno.
Right. Of a giant blue penis that flies around like that weird hand.
Oh, I am so into this. I'm now going to look this up. Porn parodies are
So,
the best.
right. But so okay, so if people aren't familiar, there are something called the locusts mentioned in the Bible. Now they don't look or they're nothing like locusts as far as I can tell. Um, you know, they have very specific characteristics that make them exactly not locusts as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, do you want? I have it right here. If they quoted that section in the article, you want me to read it real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's read it.
Okay. The article says Relation 9 describes them this way. The shape of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were something like crowns of gold, and their faces were like faces of men. They had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sounds of chariots, with many horses running to battle. They had tails like scorpions, and the stings in their tails. Uh, their power was to hurt men for 5 months. They had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name is in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek his name is Apollon. Revelation 9, 7 through 11.
See, now I always pictured these things as being the Jeepers Creepers thing, except with four legs, and a tail. But and long hair, and a crown. Okay, pretty much everything that's not the Jeepers Creepers, but I mean it's close, because they have the teeth of lions and the face of men, and they could fly.
And teeth. I didn't know insects had teeth. And scorpion tail. I now need someone to like draw this description.
Right. Dude, and if y'all like ever want like a really fun, terrible movie experience, watch the movie, what do they call it? It's like the leftover, or not Left Behind. It's like the people that are left. Anyway, fuck. There's like a horror movie and it's a Christian horror movie.
Oh,
And
great.
oh man, it was fun. It was almost like one of those like found footage type movies,
Oh no, like a Blair Witch.
Yeah, except that these giant like spikes would come out of the sky and stab people because that's the scorpion tails of these things.
This sounds like another great porn parody.
Right.
Uh,
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad, but so fun. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Wow. Brent, do we want to keep with this article or do we want to move on to your second article?
What's the second article?
The second article was from Answers in Genesis. Let me find it. Academic editorial. Research contradicting the LGBT agenda shouldn't be printed.
Oh yeah, this now. Okay, so
This is written by Ken Ham himself.
Of course it was. That's why it was so stupid. Okay, now it's all adding up. Because it's like the dumbest fucking article I've ever read in my life. Like I felt dumber after having read this article.
Yeah, I found some interesting contradictions in it that was pretty fun.
Okay,
So,
yeah, let's do that. So it's basic hatred, you know.
Yeah, the idea is that there was a journal called Nature Human Behavior, and they recently published an editorial saying that science must respect the dignity and rights of all humans, saying that they didn't really want to do anti-LGBT research.
And I think that I think he put together the whole thing because nature.com is a very established science journal that is very well recognized as one of the best science journals out there. And I think it's Nature and Human Behavior, like in the human behavior section.
No, actually, Nature Human Behavior is its own journal.
Oh, no shit. Really? And it doesn't have any relation to nature.com?
No, it is a monthly, multidisciplinary, online, peer-reviewed scientific journal covering all aspects of human behavior. It's established in 2017.
Fuck, my bad. Okay, all right. Well, shit, I thought it had something to do with nature.
It has
my favorite journal.
It has an impact factor of 24.254, and I don't know how to read that exactly. Impact factor is like its relative importance of its work in the world of science journals, and I don't know what that number means, to be honest with you. I don't think it's super high, but it is not zero either. So somebody reads it, and it probably says important things one time or another. I'm just going to go with that assumption for now.
For sure, yeah. So the article itself is basically saying why. See, and I was homeschooled by Christian zealots, and this is like exactly how all my science was in my in my high school experience. Here's why science is stupid. You know, that was basically what I experienced there. But go on, what are you saying?
So basically, he argues that he claims that this journal is taking legit science off the table because of what it calls harms. It doesn't want to do harms, and he is redefining harm as, well, if you don't like what the research says, then, or if it can have negative consequences, they're not willing to look at it. And that's not what they're saying. A lot of journals have sort of taken this stance because you look at like what Douglas Murray did, the guy who wrote the Bell Curve.
Oh, Charles Murray?
Yeah, Charles Murray. Sorry. I don't know where I got Douglas from. Charles Murray, that work did a bunch of harm, and it was heavily refuted.
It was widely debunked, like widely, by like the planet was basically like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and he had an agenda too, where he's a super libertarian, and he was trying to use that data to further libertarian agendas. And although there may have been some truth in some of the research as a whole was not great, and it was causing problems and harms to people.
Well, because they were using it to basically harm people, and that's the point. Is why if we're going to use this data right, that has been collected to harm a particular group of people, then we shouldn't do that, right? Like that's just like, and that's exactly what the bell curve did, was basically saying that, hey, the IQ test is the only way to tell if somebody is smart or not. All the, let's go ahead and rank the races, by IQ intelligence,
Yeah,
and yeah. There's an Ezra Klein and Sam Harris debate that I recommend people go listen to about that, because he kind of like he like shows why it's fucking stupid and why you shouldn't promote that type of bullshit.
yeah,
Anyway, I'm
and
sorry. Go
not
on.
important or helpful in any way. Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So, yeah, this journal saying that they are throwing shit like that away to reduce harm, I think is a good thing. But Ken Ham here is trying to claim that, oh, but you're throwing away science and that's anti-scientific.
Yeah.
But that's what he does constantly.
Exactly. I was just going to say, like, he's the guy that will sit there and say that gayness is a choice, even though if you sat there and asked him, you could choose to be attracted to another man, he'd be like, no, 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 I can't. Of course not me, not me. And then like, then why the fuck is it? Why the fuck do you think it's a fucking choice then, man? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's like saying you choose to like fucking tomatoes. You don't choose to like tomato. You either do or you don't. You can't help that shit.
Yeah. And not supporting research that specifically goes after tomato eaters is probably a positive thing to
And
do.
right, and saying that all tomato eaters are bad.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
best part of this article is where he accuses science of throwing away science for agenda reasons. And then in the very same short article, he references his same fight to do the same thing, where he was trying to get Dr. Andrew Snelling into the Grand Canyon to take rock samples to prove that Noah's flood happened.
Oh my god. What?
And which they eventually won because of the Trump administration. He was allowed to go in and get samples. And then it has a link to the article where they claim those samples prove that the flood happened, because there are like twisty rocks. And those rocks can either happen because of water, which they're saying, or scientists. He says at the beginning that it's flat out proved it happened now, even though geologists believe that those layers were laid down and then warped through
those,
heat and pressure.
those goddamn geologists.
Yeah. So
Trying to.
we proved this is absolutely right if we stop listening to all the scientists and only listen to Dr. Snelling.
Because again, like this is very important for like how science works. Okay, it's not just one science. Like everybody has a field of science that they are experts in, right?
Yeah, it's
And
really specialized.
it's extremely specialized, yes. And the whole thing is and this is why we have peer review, because in peer review you can recreate the exact same experiments, and you can actually tell from different specialized perspectives, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. If everybody can agree after doing their own specialized, from their own specialized perspective, do their research and throw in their own variables and all this other stuff, they can go, oh shit, yep, they're right. Or oh shit, no, they didn't think about this, or they didn't think about that, or whatever. That's why peer review is so important, because
That's that's right. And the peer review process is rigorous for a reason. So like every scientist wants to make the next big discovery, right?
yeah.
So when somebody else says they made that discovery, they have to show their work, and you're hoping that they did not, so that you can be the one that makes that discovery, right? But when you read their paperwork and check their math, and even you agree, and you, I mean the community at large, who is hoping it's not true, has to admit it is, that is a pretty rigorous standard.
Yeah. And they will, and you know what? Get this. If you prove that somebody else did something wrong, in the same peer review, guess whose name gets on that study now?
Yep, you get to write your own paper and get paid showing how that person was wrong.
Which means there's a vested interest in,
Catching mistakes.
in catching mistakes. Exactly. Where the most of these fucking asshole, idiot, fucking anti-science, like anti-vax morons, like don't understand how that functions. Because if they did, it's, and I always use this, and tell me what you think of this, but I always use this, this example. I say you're a spark plug denier, and people will be like, what do you mean a spark plug? Like, okay, well, I have my spark plugs, changed. Somebody's like, yeah, bro, hey, look, spark plugs. Okay, no, it's cool. I'm gonna tell them. Look, spark plugs don't exist, bro. And what are you talking about? Of course, spark plugs exist. No. Look, what do cars run on? Okay, gasoline and sparks plus gasoline equals explosions. Okay, I've seen enough Michael Bay movies to know that it's not how these things work. Okay, so you're wrong about this. All the mechanics have decided that they can make extra money if they decide, if they all agree to tell you that the spark plugs are what's wrong with your car. You know what I'm saying? And it's just misunderstanding a basic fundamental process, because the answer to that is, oh, you just don't know how engines work. But they will sit there and and act and make this simple mistake and then act like it means so much more than that.
Yeah. And then once called out and shown that they're wrong, it's just further doubling down, and their theory has to get crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
The flat earth community is great for this, because then they've gotten to the point where there's now a spotlight that shines on part of the earth, and it moves over the square shaped earth in a figure eight pattern, and that's how we get light and dark somehow, because the light only shines directionally and doesn't bounce anywhere.
Oh my fuck. In a figure eight. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Jesus fuck.
Interfacing with these people is exhausting, Brent.
Oh, I know. I do debates here and there.
Oh, my soul hurts.
But yeah, so they basically are saying that if it isn't in line with LGBTQIA plus community standards, that it's all wrong.
Yeah, they're questioning the journal's integrity, claiming that they're throwing away good science for the sake of being woke, and that's not true. They see a trend towards trying to use their platform to attack human beings, and they're saying that they're not going to participate in that anymore. And as long as that journal continues to put out good articles that pass scientific rigor, then I think that's the important part.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that look, these are the people that we they're acting like we haven't had decades and decades of people going to scientists, or going to, not scientists, but like therapists, have going, hey, I'm attracted to men, please make me stop, please help me stop, because everybody's hurting me over this. And there are decades of this research being done, and at the end of those decades, and everybody's saying, okay, no, we'll figure out like how to help you stop being attracted to your same sex. Nothing is there. There's no way to do that, and they're acting like all of that history has not happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Earth is 6,000 years old, and never mind the fact that we have 10,000-year-old written documents in China. They're Chinese. They're not real people. That didn't happen. It's basically what they're saying.
They lied about the year. Okay, I just wrote down a wrong year there. That's what that is. There was a 1 and not a 0.
Carbon dating isn't real.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they love the carbon dating thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I will say. Well, hey, well, thank you so much, Matt, for hanging out and talking about these couple of articles.
Hey, thanks for having me on to rant and turning me on to the fact that there's probably yellow submarine porn somewhere. I think I'm going to go see if that exists. Like, I need to know now.
It's a giant blue hand. It's a giant blue hand.
Yeah, it's now part of my identity. If it doesn't exist, I'm going to make it exist.
Make millions.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Brent. It's been a pleasure.
What do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbator shamers? Fuck off.